Hi, Gary Stearman at Prophecy Watchers. Time for another commentary. And I'm going to extend a few words about a book that I talked about a few weeks ago. It's entitled, Would You Baptize an Extraterrestrial? With a big question mark. And it's written by a couple of gentlemen who are members of the Society of Jesus, G. Consolmagno and Paul Mueller. They were responding to a statement made by Pope Francis in May of 2014. And I quote, and this is Pope Francis who's making this statement, imagine if a Martian showed up, all big ears and big nose like a child's drawing, and he asked to be baptized. How would you react? A very interesting question from Pope Francis. And it's basically offered on the basis that we are about to disclose some contact that we've been having with extraterrestrial visitors of some sort. Of course, for literally decades now, going back to 1947, the big Roswell event, people have been talking about UFOs and aliens and abductions, and you've heard the drill over and over and over again, with the resulting assumption that yes, there are aliens coming from other star systems, other planets, and they're visiting Earth, and they're biding their time until just the right moment to identify themselves and make contact with the governments of the United States, although a variant of that is that they've already made contact with various branches of government of the United States, and maybe Russia, maybe China, and they're working out some kind of huge intergalactic trade deals or something. We don't know. But the mind of the world has been focused on extraterrestrials. I happen to believe that there are extraterrestrials. They're called angels in the Bible. And on that basis, I wanted to start the discussion today by reading Job 38, verse 1, in which the Lord talks to Job after Job's incredible temptation. After all of the difficulties that Job goes through, the Lord says, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Now, Job had been, of course, trying to figure out why in the world he's having this problem he's having. Verse 3 of Job 38 says, Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and thou wilt answer me. The fourth verse says, Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? Verse 7 says, When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So here's a rhetorical question put to Job by God, in which God is saying, were you there when I laid the foundation of the earth, and when the heavens, the angels of heaven, cheered at this incredible development? And of course, we know about these angels in heaven from a number of different encounters that they had with various biblical personages. One of the main ways we know about the angels is that apparently a group of angels, some say about a third of the angels, followed Satan when he rebelled against God and fell away, taking perhaps a third of the angels with him. I happen to think that that's probably true, and it's true to the extent that those angels became evil forces. Paul mentions the fallen ones, and he says in Ephesians 6:10, finally, my brethren, and I know you've heard these words, they are among the most recited words in Christendom. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. That is the cunning trickery of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high or heavenly places, or places of authority. And so Paul lays out this, if you will, celestial wrestling match. We must put on the whole armor of God because we are wrestling against the principal angels. They're called archons in this text, against the delegated authorities, exousia, they are called. And in the King James, they're just referred to as powers. The rulers of darkness of this world against spiritual wickedness in high places. And some see a hierarchy of about 4 levels here. You have the highest angels, the delegated authorities. You have the primary demonic forces wrestling against humanity. And right at the bottom of the list, spiritual wickedness in heavenly places or in places of dark authority. So you have perhaps a hierarchy of about 4 levels here. And let's face it, the whole Bible talks about the dark side, the demonic side, the fallen angels who wrestle with God's angels. And in the end, in the book of Revelation, of course, we have the narrative of how Michael and his angels come against Satan and his angels in a legendary, it's going to be a war. If you talk about a war to end all wars, that's the one. And Satan is knocked out of the air with his angelic horde, and at that point, a war breaks out on the surface of planet Earth. But my point in all this is that we're talking about celestial beings. If they were to visit Earth today, would they be flying in machines? Well, prophecy in Zechariah seems to indicate that they may fly about in some sort of vehicles. We see this through the Bible. And if they would be flying machines, would they be those lights in the night, the UFOs, the flying saucers, the flying triangles that people are seeing all over the world? I have a tendency to believe, yes, those quote-unquote extraterrestrials are really more like ultra-terrestrials. That is, they are just a dimensional shift away from us. They're walking around in a dimension that is imperceptible to human eyes, but they're very, very close at all times. This entire conversation has brought about the question of alien presence, and who are those aliens, and do they come from other planets? Well, I have here a report, a news report filed November 9th, 2016, space.com. A $100 million search for intelligent alien life has just added a big arrow to its quiver. Breakthrough Listen. Now, Breakthrough Listen is a project in which various radio telescopes are being turned to the heavens to see if we can catch signals from those UFOs that are flitting about. Breakthrough Listen has begun using the Parkes radio telescope in Australia to scan the heavens. Representatives of the ambitious, decades-long project announced Monday. The Parkes dish becomes the 3rd telescope to be employed by Breakthrough Listen, joining the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, the Automated Planet Finder at Lick Observatory in Northern California. And by the way, they're operating 24/7, looking for those extraterrestrials who will come to Earth with technology, wisdom, perhaps a way to help man out of his problems. But that's the conversation, and it goes all the way up to the papacy. Imagine if a Martian showed up, says Pope Francis, all big ears and big nose like a child's drawing, and he asked to be baptized. How would you react? Which raises a huge question that is asked by many people. Who are these aliens? Are they friend or are they foe? You've seen all the sci-fi movies in which they appear in Earth's atmosphere, and at first they're thought to be friends, and later on they try to burn humanity to the ground. They are definitely bent on the destruction of humanity. So you have 2 questions running side by side. What are these aliens? Do they even exist? Can we detect them? And if we do, what will be their spiritual condition? Will they be spiritually favorable to humanity? Will they be believers in God? is it possible they could even be saved and baptized, says the Pope. All of this is most fascinating to me because I think it's a great indicator of where we are on the prophetic timeline. In the last days, there are going to come various dark philosophies congealing around the gospel that we have in our Bible. The clear and clear-cut need of every human being to receive salvation from sin through the finished work of the Lord Jesus Christ. And of course, that's our central message, the gospel of Christ. More than Pope Francis, I'm interested in salvation rather than simple baptism, because in my opinion, when you're saved, when you receive the Spirit of God through Christ, you are baptized, and you are baptized in the Spirit, and you become a new person in a new birth. And that is the question. And after that, you become spiritually more aware. That is, progressively, you become more and more aware of the fact that there's a war going on. And the war is very, very deceptive, very, very tricky, if you will. Paul, and going back to Ephesians again, Ephesians 6, he said, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might." And what's he getting ready to say here? Well, he's getting ready to say that we're fighting a battle at the spiritual level against beings who are invisible. Does that sound familiar? And they're called principalities, they're called powers, that is delegated authorities. They are called rulers of the darkness. We think of them as dark spirits with great power to destroy. And finally, demons at the bottom of the list. And Paul's conclusion in verse 13 of Ephesians 6, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." Paul is not so mildly warning us to beware of the fight against the dark side. When I read about so-called extraterrestrial intelligences, I instantly translate that in my mind to ultra-terrestrial intelligences. That is, I think that the dark side, the fallen angels, demons, and the like, are just beyond the veil, dimensionally speaking. But they're not so far beyond the veil that they cannot influence and affect our lives. Therefore, Paul says, put on that whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the cunning devices of the devil. When I read about the look into the skies, the radio telescopes, the optical telescopes that are being turned outward to see if maybe somebody is coming who can save mankind, I just have to shake my head. But governments are spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the search for extraterrestrial life. Just thought you might like to know about that and think about it, because there are people who really do believe that they are coming. Actually, I believe that he is coming. That's why I'm watching. So you keep watching too. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.